Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. This is Florence Donald. It is Friday, and I am so excited. Tonight is the start of a power packed month. The goal is to honor Black History Month. Just in case you didn't notice, I got brown in my skin. But we want to honor those we stand on the shoulders of as we strive to progress, strive to succeed, strive as entrepreneurs and professionals. And to succeed, it takes strategy and planning. And tonight I have a guest with you that will bring you gold with those two things: strategic planning, being an entrepreneur. I'm so excited. But let me just say, you got to have a creative mind. And with that, I'm going to say, let's get it, let's go. So here's what I got. I've got a gentleman by the name of Steve Worthy. You may have heard of him, but if you haven't, you're going to know him when you leave here tonight. Steve is a seasoned business leader. He has over 25 years of executive leadership experience in the retail industry. His career is focusing on assisting podcasters and leaders to find their unique voice and understand how they fit in their culture and how they advance their career and their podcast. Steve is also a podcasting veteran. Believe it or not, he started in 2007, y'all. I don't even think I knew podcasting existed in 2007. Just let's be real. But he began with a podcast named By Husband for Husbands. Those who know. And that was a podcast focused on business leaders, men specifically, and helping them with entrepreneurs succeed professionally and personally by balancing their family and their work. Currently, he is an entrepreneur, as I said, with Worhty Retail U, and he assists retail leaders in growing and honing their skills to maximize their career journey. You know what? It's not just retail leaders. We all need what he offers. The second is he's a CEO and a coach, and he works with podcasters, helping them to work in the area where podcasting and live streaming converge to help them increase their discoverability. We got to know. People got to find us. We got to make that awareness, grow their community and their influence, and monetize their brand. You all know my motto is productivity is about creating value. Value is what you create. Another way of saying that, you generate revenue or you monetize your brand. So with that, I want to get out of your way. I want to bring on the man himself, Mr. Steve Worthy. Welcome,
Hello.
Steve.
Hey, welcome. I feel welcomed. I feel welcome. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm about to say, well, thank you so much for being here. So I'm used to hosting, and so I gotta realize that I'm not the host, and I am the guest this time. So I gotta switch that side of my brain off. No, I'm excited to be here. I want to say thank you, just up front, one for the invitation, but two for your planning and your diligence up front before this. I thought I had a decent system, for with guests. Dude, nah, no. Your system and your structure and your follow up blows me away, and I think almost anybody out there. So I just wanted to say thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Wow. So we're going to get right into it because I want to
Yeah.
respect your time. And the first thing is I want to ask you, who is Steve Worthy? I gave a little snippet, but really, who is Steve Worthy? What's Steve Worthy's history?
Yeah, man. Wow, that's a good question. Well, I think the best way to describe me is that I've been able to find that kind of trifecta in my life, which is leadership first, and then live streaming and podcasting. The leadership piece kind of grew out of actually an apprehension for me becoming a leader, but through the Air Force, kind of finding my voice as a leader, and then actually through my professional career, being able to really hone in on my love and my passion for leadership, my personal leadership first, and then helping others kind of grow. From that, grew into podcasting. The podcasting world came into my life in 2007. It was a medium that I truly loved because it allowed myself and my host to really help people, which is kind of part of my natural bent, is to help people become better. And then the live streaming side of it, the live streaming side of it, just it started to pick up probably about 2.5 years ago in my life, and it's just something that I've grown to love. But all of these things are not just about Steve, but they're about other people. I try to utilize these mediums to help other people grow, help other people learn more about themselves so that they can grow in their own personal journey. Because at the end of the day, that's really where the value is. It's not just what you have, is what you give away and how you help other people. And so the leadership podcasting and live streaming are just mediums for me to kind of give away content, give away knowledge so that I can help other people get to where they need to be.
Okay, awesome. Well, it is so glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that. It's interesting that you say that because I'm working on producing a webinar series in a corporate professional environment, and one of the things we're going to talk about is growing your and network, and it's
Mm,
really all
yeah.
about what you just said. And thank you because you just gave me some gold nuggets to use in this upcoming webinar that I'm helping to produce. So if you guys don't have your pen and paper ready and you're not taking these nuggets down, I feel for you. I so feel for you because they gonna do you good. They're gonna do you good. My whole Iowa self is gonna come out tonight. I'm not being proper. I'm just being the good old country Iowa girl tonight. So we do have some folks here with us, and so let's go
Oh,
ahead and say good evening to some folks. And y'all know I'm gonna start with my man, and I'm gonna try to start with him if it goes up here. Where did it go? It disappeared. So let's do it this way. Okay.
oh,
See, this
yeah.
is
Let's
weird.
see.
This
Yeah,
is very
yeah,
interesting because
yeah. I can see his on Facebook.
it's doing something strange.
That is weird.
That is very strange, but we gonna fix this.
That's okay. Go ahead. It's live stream. Do
We
do
gonna
do what you need to do.
exactly. We gonna try. Oh, it's way up in the corner. Gee whiz. There
Oh,
you
there
go.
you
So I'm gonna start. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna start with Mr. Walter Strong, and because I always say he's the reason I'm out here. He pushed me out, gentle
go. Yeah.
with gentle gloves, but firm a firm hand pushed me out here. So thank you, sir. And of course, I'm going to say good evening to Tech Troublemaker. We all know him. You guys are greeting each other. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And we also have this one just makes me happy. We have our guests saying hello to folks. Thank you so much. And then we have uh, Frank is in the house with us this evening, and so I'm just enjoying this here, working. And I don't know why I'm on a new version of Ecamm, y'all.
There you go. Take your
So
time.
and
Take your
and
time.
then the other person we're going to say hi to is none other than Joshua Uel, and so glad to have you. And he always reminds me to recognize and say hello to our live tribe. It's not just those who are in chat. If you're listening and you're not able to join into the conversation and chat tonight, welcome. So
That's
glad
right.
you're here. If you're, preparing dinner or getting kids or driving home, whatever the case may be, you're part of the live tribe. And when you catch us on the replay, you're still part of the community, and we're glad that you're here. So we're going to move on, and I have a second question for you, Steve, and
Yeah.
this one is a little easier. What inspired you to start Podcasters Live?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. I do. I had just gotten back into my second go round in podcasting. From like started, I went from 2007 to around 2012. Started back in around 2017, and I took some time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I started a podcast called the Worthy Podcast, which was crazy. It really didn't have any it was about leadership coaching, but it didn't really have a natural audience and focus. And so I became part of this international podcast group. And the cool part was that four of us, it was a whole bunch of people, but four of us like really kind of connected, and we wanted to go deeper into this whole podcast thing. And so we would meet on Zoom probably once or twice a month. I was like the only American, everybody else was over in the UK. And this was around 2000, I want to say 2020 when it this happened. And I said, man, this is awesome. Like I'm loving this. And then 2020 21 came, we were still doing it. I said, dude, this is we got to do something with this. And then next thing you know, I said, you know what, I'm turning this into a podcast. I was already live streaming on International Podcast Day on in 2021. I went live with two other podcasters, and as soon as we hit end of the live stream, Podcasters Live was born. I knew that this is something I wanted to do. I wanted to help podcasters kind of grow the medium, grow their discoverability. You know, now we've kind of morphed into this kind of global platform where we're helping leaders and authors and experts kind of understand the importance of live streaming and podcasting together. And then we're growing a global community by introducing different countries or talking to different countries about podcasting. Well, we just had our first international edition, which was the Philippines. We have Africa coming up in February. The UK's next month, and so it started out just focusing on discoverability, but now we're changing up the platform a little bit more and make it a little more larger and have a global perspective.
Awesome. I do want to just say hello to this young lady. I feel like
Oh,
I know her already. I want to throw her up there because I know she and Joshua, by the way, have a lot in common. Joshua is also a branding, marketing, public relations expert, so they have a lot in common. So y'all need to get to know each other. Uh, I'm a connector by just naturally. I will
there you
connect
go.
people together. So let's move on to another interesting question that I have for you because I know a little bit about this in terms of your thinking. When you're working with your clients and you're doing coaching, or you're working with a podcaster and you're coaching them, what is your review and assessment process with them?
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer that you cannot make progress if you don't do an assessment and know where you're starting.
No, 100%, 100% agree. And a lot of my coaching and a lot of my perspective came from my business acumen. From I think we were just talking a little bit off camera. I did a short stint in project management, about a year and a half, where I learned about the entire aspects of a project, as well. And part of that, we took in was around a gap analysis, which is around helping you first understand your current state. Where are you currently in your business? So I took it from a business standpoint now to a personal. So where are you currently, financially, product wise, product development, all these different things. Now, where do you want to be? Your to be state. What's your ideal situation? When do you want to go to market with this product? Now, the gap is the most important. Is probably one of the most important parts. That's the area that you focus in on so that you can get to your to be state. And I take that same approach as it relates to coaching, because from a coaching standpoint, the goal of a coach is to take you from where you are to where it is that you want to be. You have to help to define, you meaning the coachee, you have to help define that direction and that final destination. As a coach, my job is to help guide you through that process. It's not to sort of dictate, for you to where you need to go. I can help you, escape various, traps and triggers, but the goal of getting to the end is yours because you want ownership. So, but the first part of understanding where you currently are mentally within your podcast, if we're talking about from a podcast standpoint, where are you with your podcast? Do you even have a name? Do you have a concept? Do you, what is it that you've really been thinking about? If it's from a leadership coaching standpoint, which is another thing that we do, massively, is where are you currently right now in your leadership journey? Do you know what your strengths are? One of the things that we utilize, not just with our leadership coaching clients, but also with our podcast clients, is we use the Enneagram personality type, and we use that to actually help you understand a little bit more about yourself, so that way we can move kind of through that process to get you to your ideal state as well.
You are so dropping nuggets on everybody. So, one to accomplish stuff and getting a coach, there are some of us
Mm,
who love to
mm,
do something that will make a coach want to choke us, and that's to procrastinate. So, what are
procrastinate,
some
yes.
strategies for a business person or professional to overcome that procrastination?
Man, so I am probably I don't know if I'm a recovering procrastinator or if I'm still in the journey of getting out of it. So I can't even sit here and act like I haven't struggled with that, and still struggle with it from time to time, day to day sometimes. Part of it has to do with sort of, your end goal, what it is that you're actually trying to get accomplished. The tendency sometimes is that once we accomplish a couple of things, we feel like we've almost kind of made it to the mountaintop, but there's so much more to do. There's so many more things to go. So many more ways to go. I think one of the biggest things that I have used to, I guess, prevent sort of procrastination is to have accountability partners. Have somebody that I've told, um, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go. Like a book we have coming out that's going to be under the Podcasters Live arm, how to beat in podcaster syndrome. You know, part of me early last year, excuse me, early last year, talking about the book wasn't like, from a pious standpoint, it was really from accountability standpoint. I want people like, dude, where's the book? What are you doing? What chapter are you on? So that helped me kind of rev up, the juices. And I think there's the other side of it too. That's the external part of it. The internal side of it, you do have to have some measure of drive. You do have to have some measure of purpose and intent. To quote my man Doc Rock, you have to have some measure of purpose and intent that you want to actually do something, and that at the end of the day, whatever it is that you're trying to do has to be bigger than you. Because if it's not, right, you know, not to, from a spiritual standpoint, if you want to say it, if you can do it, and then I don't know if it's God size, right? If you can do it by yourself, then God's like, well, go ahead and do it. For me, I want to do something that's bigger and better than myself, and so bigger than me, then that will actually help drive me, each and every day as well.
Great. So, we just got our first question,
Mm.
and this is a good one. It is, what do you do if you have fear of accountability?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That's a strong
Um,
question.
it's a very strong question, and I guess I would ask. I guess I would almost ask a second question, or a question back. Is that um, what in what situation have you feared accountability? Because the tendency sometimes is that we have been held accountable previously in our lives about something, and we didn't like how that felt. We didn't like how that person may have spoken to us. We didn't like how they may have communicated that level, that measure of accountability to us. And so the fear of accountability causes us to shut down. It causes us to not talk to anybody about whatever it is, and we start to isolate ourselves, and we start to work in a vacuum because we don't want that accountability. We don't want somebody to say, "Where are you with that project?" We want to do things, or the other side of it could be, and this is not you, whoever asked that question, I think it was Ann. This may not be you, but there could be a measure of bias there, is that, what, I don't need accountability. I don't need anybody. I could do this on my own. And so part of it's not so much, it's almost turning fear inside out, is because I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody to hold me accountable. I can do it all on my own. And typically those people don't last very long. They end up falling on the face with certain things, because, as we all know, you need somebody if you're going to be successful in this life. So I guess I would probably try to go back to understanding what causes that fear, of accountability, and if you can identify that point, and then kind of work your way back from there. Or if you could put that in the comments, I would love to know that as well.
Awesome. Share is all about accountability. Thank you. I have a sometimes I don't want accountability either, but then I have to humble
Why?
myself.
Why
Huh?
not? Why not? Why not?
Um, Most of the time it's when I'm afraid that I don't have the skill or the knowledge to do something.
Hmm. So
And
is it accountability, or is it what we talk about, the imposter syndrome, in the context of
um,
I may not feel like I have the requisite skills to actually do that, and I don't want to be found out. I want to make sure that I'm seen, continuously seen in a positive, professional, knowledgeable light. Is that not just not? I'm not
yeah,
just you, but just in
and
general.
I want I want your. That's why we're doing this, right? We want
Yeah,
us. We want us to grow. We want us to grow as people, as professionals, as business owners, as entrepreneurs. We want us to grow. That's what I'm about. Not sitting in the same place. And so, all of us can struggle
yeah,
with that. What I'm calling fear, real
100%.
fear of accountability, and it may be something that I need to think of. I'm generally pretty good at taking feedback.
Mm,
I get yelled at on a regular by certain humans who push me to do things.
yeah, yeah,
But I sometimes it's like I'm going to ask this, and I know I'm going to be held accountable, and I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'll
yeah.
leap out there and do it, but inside, my stomach is in knots.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because I like to look at words and then look at them from their root. So I guess accountability, of course, is a derivative of account, which means you have to give a count or a record of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or a
Mm-hmm.
record of something. And so I think the tendency is that, well, if you've been kind of doing what you should be doing, then you should have a measure of confidence in giving an account of yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
think part of that maybe is that we haven't been doing what we should be doing, or we haven't been living up maybe possibly to our full potential, and we are fearing that accountability because someone's going to do, come on now, Florence, you can do better than this, or come on, Ann, right? So we don't want to give an account of ourselves because we haven't tapped in or started to tap into our full potential. And so guess what happens? We just it just doesn't happen for us, and so
Mm-hmm.
we turn away, and we don't want the accountability in our lives.
So we did get a follow up. It says,
Yeah.
"What's this accountability question? It's probably the thought of someone taking over what they wanted to do, then trying to keep you accountable for it.
Okay, keep that up there. It's
Um,
probably the thought of someone taking over what they wanted to do, or
what
what
they
they wanted
wanted.
to do. And
Wait a minute. Let me go back.
no worries, no
Yeah, I'm
worries.
trying to understand this. The
I'm
thought of
thinking that
someone.
it's is it the person's gonna take over the project, or take over, how can I say it? Not so much the responsibility, but they're gonna take credit for something. Is that I'm just trying to I'm thinking that
Yeah, I'm
could be
trying to understand that.
that may
I'm
be it.
not 100% sure what that is. So I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna keep you here all night. I promise.
Oh, no worries, no
Because
worries.
I'll be sucking in all the knowledge. Um, what I'm gonna go back to your for husbands by husbands
Yeah, yeah.
podcast. What would you recommend to professionals, entrepreneurs to deal with burnout and maintaining a healthy work life balance? Because it can be really you can really get out of balance and easily.
Yeah, you can, and I think part of what we saw back then is that we noticed a lot of husbands striving to be entrepreneurs, and they were starting to do all these crazy hours and all these crazy things, and now the family was falling by the wayside, and the accountability wasn't there with their wives. the connection with their kids, probably wasn't there. And this is not me stating this. These are actual people that were talking to us on shows, and then counseling and connecting with us. These were actual things that were happening in their lives. And what we realized was that it was a misplaced, um, I guess, aspect of, not so much, of success that people were really trying to strive for, and that if they really had a better definition of success and what that really looked like in their lives, then I think they would have a little bit more balance, in their life. The tendency is that we sometimes burn out is because we're trying to keep up a race that we're really possibly not even meant to run, or we may be in an area of our life that we're possibly not even meant to be in, but we see that, maybe other people are doing this, or other people are having success utilizing this method, shorts for YouTube or whatever it is. So now we're going to go ham on shorts and start creating all these shorts. Well, I think part of it is you really have to realize, like, what race are you running? And are you actually meant to be where you currently are? I have found right now in my life, as old as I am, I have found a large measure of peace, in what I do, because right now I know that these are the things that I'm called to do. So there's not so much of a measure of burnout. It's actually more of a measure of encouragement. So making sure that you are going about the race the right way, and that you're actually in the right race, and that you're where you're supposed to be first and foremost, is probably something a lot of people don't they take for granted. They just start to do stuff because they think that they're really good at it, and it's not really where they're supposed to be. I'll give you an example with my podcast, the Worthy podcast. I thought it was really where I was supposed to be. I actually had people say to me, "Hey, you need to start a podcast on retail." I was like, "I don't want to do that. I'm going to wait." Yada yada yada. And I got a coach, and he said, he walked me. I walked him through my career, and he said, "Steve, talk to me about this whole retail thing." And I talked to him, and he said, "Dude, I think you may want to think about this." And he said, "Come back to me next week with 13 episodes in retail." And in Florence, I actually came back to him next week with 40 different episode titles. And I realized that was my niche. That was my point of of kind of like my area of like expertise. And I felt so much weight lifted off because I was burning out with the Worthy podcast because I was in the wrong area. So making sure that you're actually operating where you're supposed to be can kind of help you out with that. Long-winded answer. My apologies.
No, no, no. That was a great
Long-winded
answer
answer.
because it is totally applies to you regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur, you're in corporate, you're doing volunteer service, whatever it is. It's the my community knows. I talk about all three: volunteer service, being a business owner, entrepreneur, and being a leader in a corporate environment, whether it's retail, whatever that happens to be, because we have to operate in our families with
Mm,
all of that going on. And
mm.
some have all three happening
Yeah,
simultaneously.
yeah.
So, thank you. Not a long-winded answer, a great answer. And my take, I'm going to start doing my takeaways now. Those who really know me know I'm all about what's your takeaway because you need to be able to do something with this. So, my takeaway is really being able to boil down and understand, where am I supposed to be?
Mm.
It should not be a burden. It should not be a burden. If I
Have
know
you
where
I
I'm
mean,
figure out where I'm supposed to be.
we've seen those people on stage, whether it could be a pastor, or it could be a leader, um, and we and I remember this vividly. It was my when I was in Atlanta for the first time, and when I lived out here for the first time, and it was a New Year's Eve service, and I was looking at my pastor at that time, Victory World Church, and Pastor Dennis, and I was looking at him on the stage. It's like I think it was like 2002, and I just like something just came over me. I was like, this is a man that is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Like he is operating exactly where he needs to be. And it was just like I realized at that point in my life I wasn't operating where I was supposed to be. And it wasn't a so much of of a comparison thing. It was just like, man, I want that. I want that feeling of operating exactly where I'm supposed to be. That you know, um, that feeling of like it's almost like deja vu, right? I keep quoting my old pastors because those are the ones that taught me a lot of stuff. He said, "There's no such thing as deja vu." He's like, "That's when your natural spirit and your man and your soul are aligned, and you're actually supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're going in the right direction anyway." So I digress, but that's exactly how I want that feeling in my life, and I do, I'm having that feeling in my life of like these are the things, these are the people, this is the direction that I want to be in, and I want everybody to have that too. I want you to have that feeling in your life where you're waking up and you're live streaming, and you're at a podcast, or you're working, and you're going to work. You're like, dude, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And not a lot of us can, not a lot of us can say that.
Yeah, that's a strong one. A lot of us cannot say that. I'm going to ask you, we do have some other folks who've joined us,
Yeah.
but if you're getting value, which if you're here, you're listening, those who are, whether you're in the chat or not, getting value, hit the like button, let us know. And also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would love to have you a part of the community when you get an opportunity. And thank you, Miss Curry, for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think you're in ATL, aren't you? If I remember, I think you're in ATL. But so I'm going to just move on, and
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the next question, and then we're going to wrap because I don't want to take all night.
No
Is
worries.
you're always moving, shaking, doing something. So what's your next big project? What's next for Steve Worthy?
Oh, wow. Um, Jeez. You know what? It's not so much a big thing. Well, it's two big things. I'll start with Podcasters Live first. So we are um in rewrites with our book. So I'm excited about that, about how to beat in podcaster syndrome. I think part of that this journey of writing the book has taught me a lot about myself, about being patient, and making sure that I am offering value to the audience, and that the book is not just about me, but it's about the person that's going to be reading it. And I think that's been a massive shift for me, in that vein. But the biggest thing, and this, even though I have Podcasters Live up here, we do have two businesses, and the larger one, if you would probably think the Podcasters Live is the larger one. Actually, our Worthy Retail U is the larger of the two, and we are really going to be going like full throttle, into that, because we've been actually able to see a lot more value, in that leadership realm, focusing in on retail leaders. Our podcast for called Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy has reached the top 10% of all podcasts, which has been really cool. And so our goal is to leverage that, but leverage, my passion and my love for retail leaders. So we are going to be probably doubling down, on that. And you'll see Podcasters Live will still be here, but we're going to be going like full throttle, nobody's business with retail leadership with Steve Worthy. So it's like I said, so it's not the next big thing, but it's where we're headed. And so I think a lot of times we feel like we should be doing this because I love podcasting, I love live streaming. But when I think about everything, the leadership piece is the foundation, and it is just it's that part of me that I just can't get enough of. And so we're going to be going after that, like I said, like nobody's business.
Awesome. Well, one of our moderators dropped a web link in the chat for everybody for retail leadership, but we also want to
Oh, thank you.
share with you a little bit about how to find Steve at his website, and you'll see information there. I'm going to let you talk about this because you're
Yeah.
the expert here.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, see, and with every interview I do or I have done over the last year and a half, 2 years, whether I'm talking about podcasting, I invariably start talking about leadership. Or if I'm talking about leadership to somebody, I end up talking about podcasting. And so the two have been inexplicably like linked to me. And so we came up with this website. It's just called asksteveworthy.com. And it actually has my focus messed up. It actually has both of our businesses there, Worthy Retail U and Podcasters Live. So the tendency is that if you wanted to connect with me on retail, then you can go there. If you wanted to connect with me on podcasting, you can go there as well too. So two of my passions in a one-stop shop.
Awesome. I have really enjoyed, and we did get clarification, just so you're aware,
Oh,
on the
okay.
question about when
Oh,
people
wait,
want to
no.
take
I got
over.
time. I got time. Don't rush me. Don't rush me. I
Well,
got
I'm
time.
trying to respect your time, sir.
I got time, man. Go. I want to answer that
Okay.
question
Well,
if
I'll
there's some
keep
other
going
questions
because
out there.
I'm trying to get this knowledge here. But the question, we're going to go back to the question from Anne Marie. Was she was
Yeah.
talking about uh, when it thought of someone else taking over what you wanted to do, and then them trying to do it and keep you accountable when they're trying to take over. But now they don't want to be accountable when they're trying to take over. They want you to be accountable when they're trying to step in. That's a tongue twister.
That is. That is. So okay. So okay. I'm leading. Let's work this out. I'm leading the project. You're my boss, Lawrence. I'm lead. You're. We're both part of a project, but you're my boss, and I'm doing the project, and you're holding me accountable to said project. I don't want you to hold me accountable because every time you come in to the equation, you hold me accountable to the project, but you don't want to be because you don't want to be held accountable for the project. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what it is?
So this is the way I would explain exactly.
Or is it the opposite?
I'm going to say you're my boss. I'm your staff. You've given me something to do, but then
Yes.
you start taking over
Ah.
doing it. But
Oh.
you don't want to now, but you still want to hold me accountable when I'm not the one performing the work. I'm not the one taking it on. You're stepping in, and then you're still holding me accountable. That's the way I understand the
Okay.
scenario.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's a leadership issue then. That's not so much of an accountability issue. That's more of a leadership issue. That's a conversation that you need to have with that person. Because in that same vein, because hold on for a second. Every time you give me something, you come back and you want to take it. Is there something that I'm not doing that you don't like within this process? Or is it because the tendency, like a lot of times, people will give somebody something and they want to take it back because they don't like the way that they're doing it, or they want to do it their way, but they were forced because you're in a leadership role to give people and to delegate certain things. So I think that's a conversation that you actually kind of need to have. I had a similar incident where when my boss um brand new to the market, I had a really great team loved me. um they were a little rough around the edges, and what happened was is that they tried to take they almost kind of tried to come over and take over my team because the team was really good, but they wanted to actually have responsibility for that team. It's like, well, no, it's my team. You know, you can't come in and try to supersede me or supplant me, as the leader. And I had to have a conversation with them in that context of like, I'm not particularly sure what the motive is. Why are you constantly in my market more so than my peers' market? And why are you constantly having conversations, one about me or about somebody else on my team to my team? My team tells me everything. So part of some of this accountability piece may be for you to have a conversation with this person that is constantly trying to dip their hand into the situation, because if you don't, it's just going to continue to get worse, or it may already be worse.
So we have one of our community members here says a little micromanagement, removal of the delegation. Absolutely, absolutely, micromanagement, just not handling delegation. And so I'm gonna throw this out here. You all know I'm about productivity, and it's not about
Yeah,
task management. It's not even
yeah,
so much about project management. It's about what you're creating. And all of these barriers and points of friction, like this is a point of friction. If the
100%.
relationship is broken, you're not gonna move forward. You can only move forward at the speed of trust. So the
Mm,
relationship is broken, there's no trust in the
none.
relationship. And so that's going to stop you from
Mhm.
accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish or whatever your goal is because you're stuck. You cannot get past that point of friction
No, and
in the relationship.
yeah, and that point of friction is some people some people like that point of friction because it almost makes them feel like they're in charge. And they can keep up that level of separation between you and them when really there isn't any measure of separation. It's only the fact that they probably got the job, probably 2 seconds just before you applied for it, right? So there could be a myriad of issues between you and this other person, not just you, and but I'm just thinking in general. I'm talking about in generalities, there could be an issue between you and that other person that needs to get resolved. And if you don't resolve it, if you don't have that conversation, that here's the thing about conversations, right? The difficult conversations is the issue that we are afraid of the outcome. We think that someone is going to perceive us, especially I just got to say, especially if we're black, they're going to perceive us as negative, and they're going to perceive us as boisterous, and they're going to perceive us as um, someone who was loud. But if you're presenting your situation in a very professional manner, and you are actually articulating your points, but more important, you putting in the onus on them because as the leader, it's their job to come back and to connect with you. So I often felt bad as a leader when I knew that there was an issue with the relationship, and my the person I supervised actually had to come to me and say, "Steve, are we okay?" And I would say, Not necessarily." I felt bad. Some people don't feel bad, but I felt bad in those situations, and I had to flip it on its head. So a whole bunch of stuff, man, that we can kind of go down and into, but at the end of the day, the friction is there, and then it has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed before you guys can move forward effectively.
Right, exactly. So we have some content creators here,
Yeah,
podcasters, live streamers, educators.
yeah,
And what are three tips that you could share with those who are in? And I'm going to continue this preface by saying all of us are content creators.
yeah,
You don't have to be live streaming. You don't have to be podcasting, though we have many in our audience who are doing one or both.
yeah,
But being a creator,
yeah.
content creator, what are some tips for increasing our productivity or increasing the value that we're putting out into the world?
Mm. I guess one of the first things I would ask is that, what are you currently doing? Right? I think I would take an assessment of what you're currently doing, and a lot of times, here's the thing, right? A lot of times we're not maximizing what we should be currently doing before we start to try something new, right? So a lot of times we're not even maximizing our posts per week. We're not maximizing, our live streams. We're not maximizing, our interactions with people. We're not going back into our comments, and actually connecting with people, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're not maximizing that because the actual aspects of of content is that you want people to consume your content. And the way that they consume your content is to know a little bit more about you. I just posted something It was on LinkedIn and also in the podcasters live group where finally, I said, finally, someone heard me where they started talking about that um, downloads should not be considered a point of success anymore. It should be listening time. Anybody who has known me, I have said it a whole bunch of times, is that the more people consume, I would love to have more people consume my content for a period of time than focusing on downloads. And part of that consumption, to get to your point around your productivity and get things out there, is to make sure that your content, the content that you put out there, it's consumable and it's focused in on your audience, right? The only way that people are going to consume something is that it resonates with them. So from a productivity standpoint, you need to spend more time up front thinking about what you're putting out there and if it's going to resonate with somebody. So first part, assess where you are. Second part, I would take more time to think about the posts and the things and activities that you're trying to do to get out there. Um, and the third one is I would almost be I'm almost gonna say try something new, but I almost don't want to say that because what happens is that you start going down a rabbit hole, chasing all these different things that really you haven't given what you're currently doing enough time to make a dent, right? It's the flywheel effect. I don't know if anybody ever read um Good to Great by Jim Collins. He has this flywheel analogy around if the more and more you start, focusing on the flywheel, the more you start to eat away at something. And the tendency is that we give up on something right before we're about to actually hit pay dirt because we start looking at the next shiny thing and we start to do it. So I would try to say figure out what that horse is that you're going to be going after and spend some more time in doing that, because I think productivity in and of itself is almost sort of an elusive piece because we can start doing all these things and activity is not so much success, it is just that it's activity. And so focusing in on what you're currently doing, are you maximizing that? Is your content and your messaging focused in on the right audience? And then are you taking time to actually allow it to resonate with the right audience and with people, and giving yourself some time to actually do something consistently instead of trying to do each and everything that you see everybody else doing? I don't know if that helps or not, but that's just kind of my little 2 cents.
I have this thing about muting myself.
So
I have this thing about muting myself, but definitely about maximizing. One of the things I've talked about, and maybe you talked about writing the book. I want to dig into that. I want to know when we gonna get this book, because let me just tell you, and I got witnesses, so you can't tell me you didn't tell me. I want an author's autograph copy.
okay.
Just saying.
All right, I got you.
So when am I gonna get my book?
Oh man, we're working with the publisher now, so I'm going back. I'm meeting with him again on February 11th. So
Okay.
hopefully he'll give me some good news. I'm probably one more rewrite away. He's challenging me to dig deeper and to crystallize a little bit more, right? And I think because as an author or as somebody who's writing something, you can get you get verbose and you're just like, because I want to explain something, and then I want to make sure that you understood what I just explained.
I'm
And
gonna
so, you know what I
explain
mean?
what I
So there,
explained.
yeah, exactly. And so there's some of that I've been doing within the book. And so he's like, "You can do they no, you've already talked about it, and keep it moving." And so that's kind of where I'm at right now is moving through some of that stuff. But he's getting the best out of me, man. He's challenging me to do things that I've never done. So and
So
we got a really good accountability group of authors, and that's all they do. They don't do anything else. They're authors, And so it's a new world for me to be in an accountability group with authors. They see the world differently than I
Mm,
think
yeah.
a lot of other people do. And I don't mean that in a negative context. I just think from a creative standpoint,
Hmm.
it's a world that I haven't been in. And so it's been really refreshing.
So I think I started something because Tech Troublemaker said we can meet up and get it signed. So just so you know, we out there. We want
There you
to
go.
not only support you, but for me, I want the knowledge and the goal that you're sharing. Um, so many times people think that a specific industry or topic is limited to that industry,
Mm,
and it
no.
is not. You can take knowledge and use it from anywhere, but you've got to
Yes.
have an open mind to do that. I did a show early on about what type of thinker you are. And as
Mm,
I was really reflecting on that, I realized one of the reasons that I operate to do, I actually think all three ways simultaneously.
mm,
I think visually, tactically, and abstractly all together. So I see things that are very unrelated and I can
yeah.
connect the dots very
Yeah.
quickly. Um, and
I
so
did.
maybe that's why I do what I do, because I can literally plan an entire project, a huge one,
Yes.
in my head before I ever put anything on paper.
Does that get on people's
It's
nerves?
it does.
Yeah, I say that because
It does. It's just like
I'm the same way.
I have to tell you, I had this experience just this week where I was having a conversation and doing some work, and one of the people who was listening in to the meeting where I was interviewing. I was doing a interview with the client to pull some information out for a project, and the person afterwards said, we did a debrief, and the person said to me, "Can I get the script that you used?" I said, "It's called 30
Mm,
years of experience, baby.
100%.
It's
There
in
you
my
go.
head.
Yes.
There's no written script. They say
Mm-mm.
this, I know where to go. They said that, I
Yes.
know where to go."
Yes. Yes.
So, um, it's experience and it's knowledge. Like, and we were talking about a building, a medical building that has to be put together, and I
Mhm.
said, I can't tell you how many hundreds of medical buildings I've put together. I can walk the entire building in my mind and know exactly where everything is supposed to go, the sharps
Yeah.
container, the table, everything.
Yeah.
So it's not something I can put in a checklist, and even if I did, it wouldn't make sense to you.
Correct.
so,
No.
so we've
No.
got another comment here, and it's really
Yeah.
back to. So I've started something with this book. So
That's
you may
okay.
be talking
That's
about this
okay.
book tonight, but
That's alright.
the editing process, the most critical is the most critical process of publishing a book. And just so you know, Steve,
Mhm.
we do have Joshua Ewell. He has published, and I'm going to tell a story, 3 or 4 books. I always
Nice.
forget the number.
Awesome.
It's three or four
Awesome.
books already. So he can.
Yeah.
And Anne Marie says she can't see in my head.
Well, it's the I share that that mindset and that perspective. Um and here's the thing about being able to see. I love Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if anybody else likes a whole bunch of Sherlock Holmes. I think Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best Sherlock Holmes. If you haven't seen this movie, um, he's there's one scene, he's dancing with this gal, and there's like a whole bunch of stuff going around the room, and and she asked him, she said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see everything." And he said, and he saw the person with the straightening jacket, someone is over in the corner arguing, somebody's over here stealing something, and he said, "That's my gift and that's my curse." And it's interesting because um I whenever I was in leadership, when I was in retail, I could walk into a store, I can walk into a situation, I can walk into a conference, I can read the room, and I can automatically know who the real leaders are, who the wannabe leaders are, and who the would-be leaders are. And I would be able to and I could work the room in that fashion.
Hmm.
And it's sometimes it is initially, as a young leader, it was a curse because I was so far ahead of my team and I didn't bring them along for the ride because like, dude, why are we here yet? We should be here. Well, I didn't give them the skills to actually to get here. I didn't prepare them back here, 10, 14 days, 2 months, 3 months, from the deadline. I was already at the deadline. So as a young leader, the tendency sometimes, even as sometimes us as our old leaders and professionals, we tend to see the end in mind, but we don't take the necessary steps to go back and put them all in place so that we can actually, get to the end. You and I were talking earlier off camera. One of the things that I learned from my stint in project management was earned value, was that every time we accomplished a milestone within that project, the project actually earned value, based on what that milestone was, right? And the resources that we already had outlaid. Same thing applies when you start to think about your goals. You think about your we call it in grad school BHAGs, your big hairy audacious goals. Same thing applies. If you're not hitting your milestones, right, then you're not really earning any value towards that goal. Think about it, your goal in that context, that every little thing that you do, you're earning more and more value to get to that end goal. And if we don't think about it in that context, then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. And so, anyway, back to the point, I share your mindset around being able to see everything, and then trying to help people in the same vein is hard sometimes.
Oh, okay. We getting hard questions. We may ask you for clarification. Does that become a hazard toward growth?
Great question. Great question.
Does that become a hazard toward
I'm
growth?
thinking I'm thinking she's talking about how we
How
see the
we
world,
see
possibly
things?
how we see the world. I think it does. And when I was once a young leader, I had a whole bunch of people, from an accountability standpoint. But here's the one thing I've learned too, is that the higher you go, the less feedback you receive, within organizations. And so you actually have to seek out the feedback from your peers and from people that you supervise. So at a certain point, your growth has to truly, truly become intentional. Typically, when you're a young leader, you're reading books, you're going to conferences, and you're connecting with people. You actually learn a lot through osmosis, through just consuming. But when you get a little bit older, you have to be more intentional. I am very intentional around the people that I surround myself with, the people I connect with, the books I read, the podcasts I read, and if it's not adding value to me, then I actually don't do it. So it can be a hindrance, but you have to be intentional about you moving yourself forward, because if you don't, then you can get stuck.
Awesome. You have really helped so many people tonight. You
I hope
really
so.
have. Thank you. We've gotten some great questions, and you've dropped some great gold on us. And I'm going to ask you one more favor.
Yeah, yeah, go
Maybe
for
one
it.
more. Maybe one more.
Yeah,
So this is, and I want you to kind of maybe expound on
yeah.
this in a little bit. Of course, this is Black History Month, and I was intentional
Mm,
about bringing together some dynamic, forward moving, progressive, powerful business leaders. So this month, we're going to have four business leaders, each week. You've kicked it off, so the others got to live up to tonight. I feel for them. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I feel for them. Uh, would you talk about, if you would, just thinking about history, the shoulders that we
mm.
all stand on, where we've come from, and being successful. We think about things like Black Wall Street, standing
Yeah.
on the shoulders of Black Wall Street,
Mm,
because we
mm.
do.
Yeah,
Today, being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, being a content creator,
yeah.
do you give that much thought and what impact it can have? Because one day someone is standing on your shoulders, like I'm standing on your
Mm.
shoulders right now, literally. I'm
Oh,
like, just, I'm taking it in. What does that mean to you?
oh, there isn't a day that doesn't go by that I don't understand or recognize that I'm black. And what I mean by that is that, when I was in corporate America, um, I could go into stores and connect with them, and I was Steve, I was Coach Steve, I was VP Steve, I was this Steve. But when I went and got in my car, I was just a black dude in the car, and I could be pulled over at any time, just like anybody else. And so, being black and understanding and being and then also having a house in a nice neighborhood and getting stopped and asked if you actually live in this neighborhood, and you do because you can afford to live in this neighborhood. Those things are not you know they're constantly top of mind when I think about things. One of the most, I guess, seminal moments of my life was, uh, being, formerly in the Air Force, and I'm old, so I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and, I was in theater for an entire year over in Saudi Arabia, and, um, war was over, you know, came back. I I enjoyed serving my country. Um, I realized the benefits that I did have, even though being a black man. I did have a better way of life than a lot of other people had throughout the world, and I did recognize all of that. And so coming back, feeling really good about being a black American. I remember we stopped over in Ramstein Air Force Base, and we're all in the chow hall, and the we didn't get any news. So when we were there, we didn't have TVs. We didn't get any news. We didn't get any of that stuff. Just to let you guys know that. So I didn't know a lot of stuff was going on. We were in Ramstein's Air Force Base, and eating dinner, and I look up at the TV, and there you have Rodney King being beat by, eight, cops or whatever. Here I am, a 21-year-old black guy just coming back from serving this country, and I have to come back to the United States. And these are the things that I actually have to see, that I have to deal with, that I actually have to face. That situation wasn't um it impacted me, greatly, and realized that everything that I did thereafter had to be great. It had to be of importance. It had to be making sure that I understood that other people were looking at me, um, not just now, but in every aspect of my career, my kids, there are always people looking at me. And I want to make sure that I'm putting the best foot forward, to and for everybody. So, um, all the things that people before me have had to sacrifice, my parents, my grandparents, everybody is it's in my heart, and it impacts everything that I do, as a content creator and then also as a CEO.
Awesome. So we've got an Air Force vet in the house. So I'm just gonna put this up here so he don't think I didn't admit him. He says aim high. We know.
That's right.
And then we've got another person who wants to thank you for your service. So I want to make sure we put that up there. I don't take it
Yeah.
lightly. That's something that you and I have in
Mhm.
common, and I don't often talk about it. But once you've served, it never leaves you.
Mm.
It
Mm-mm.
never leaves you.
No. No.
Stop.
No. Go
Stop, Anne
Navy.
Marie. Stop telling. You
I know.
girl. See,
I
you
Yeah,
got
man.
you telling on folk. Telling on folk. But I have truly, absolutely loved this entire process with you. I've grown a ton from the moment I ask you, even just being intentional. You know, my word this year is intentional, but
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
intentional
Yeah. Yeah.
about what I said when I reached out to you because I don't take people's time for granted.
No, I appreciate that.
I value every moment that someone gives me. And from the moment that you said yes, you're stuck with me, just so you know.
Aw.
I hate to tell
Alright.
you, There are a
That's
couple
okay.
folks in the chat who may tell you if I say that, they know I mean it. I'm not even playing a little bit. But the last part is I want to do a round table
Yeah.
with you all. And
Yeah.
I got witnesses. Are you willing to come back perhaps
100%.
around March 10th and be a part of a round table?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I love I love, as you well know, I love to host the roundtables. I love to be a part of them. I think the value, that um collectively people add in those circumstances, um it's just something that you just can't you can't get anywhere else. And so yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, gang, we have had a treat tonight. I'm going to just give you an opportunity to know how to connect with me, and then we're going to close up with Mr. Worthy giving us the last words because I love my guests to leave their last words with the
Mhm.
community. So the way you can connect with me is, of course, remember to subscribe, but you can connect with me by going to florencedonald.live, and there you can see how you can schedule a discovery call if you need help with your productivity journey. I will work with you and support you. There's a way to join the community and share. We're putting together some things in the background that won't be publicly available to folk, and so want you to use it to your advantage. And Joshua says he's a share, get him, share, please get him right now. He's already named the round table. I'm bringing Mr. Worthy back and getting out your face. He over here talking about,
Black
we will
manpower
call it
hour.
the
Yeah.
MacMan Power Hour. Share, please
Black-
get
black-
him. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna put girl power on you.
There you go.
So, Mr. Worthy, I'm gonna let you share whatever you'd like. I would ask one of my moderators, please make sure you redrop into the chat his web link, and y'all go see him, follow him. I'm gonna say it now. We'll have it in the description. The podcast of live and Worthy Retail You. I don't care what your profession is. I promise you,
Mm,
you will learn and you will grow. Mr.
yeah.
Worthy, I'm giving it to you, sir, to close us out.
Oh wow. Well, thank you for that. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I love the engagement in your community. I love being asked questions. Um, because I think for me it helps me learn too. I think the question that was just asked earlier today, I'm actually going to turn that into a podcast episode, which is which added value to me because now I got to think about how I would handle that in a retail standpoint for somebody else. So thank you for the engagement. I think two things, right? If from a leadership standpoint, I firmly believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. And if you are going after certain things in your life, that when you're called to lead, you need to lead. There are certain aspects in your life or certain aspects of who you are that people see inside of you that you need to express and that you need to get out. And then that segues into, from a podcast or content creator standpoint, stop waiting. There's somebody out there waiting to hear what it is that you have to say. I know that could sound a little pompous. I know that could sound a little arrogant. Who am I, Steve? I'm just so and so. But I'm telling you that there is somebody out there. There is an audience. There's an individual that cannot move without you. They can't move because they haven't heard your voice. They can't move because they haven't heard your story. Your story resonates with people. And so making sure that you are getting out there and creating the content, somebody's waiting for you. So don't hesitate to get out there and do what you need to do. Those are my pieces. That's all I got.